The airport hummed with the sounds of rolling suitcases, the chatter of travelers, and the distant announcements of departing flights. Bright overhead lights illuminated the bustling scene, casting a warm glow on the sea of hurried faces. Among the throng, Sarah pushed her way through the crowd, her heart racing. She clutched her phone tightly, glancing at the screen for the umpteenth time as she navigated through the chaos. The departure board flickered in her peripheral vision, and her stomach dropped when she noticed the time. Her flight was boarding in mere minutes. Come on, she muttered under her breath, willing her feet to move faster. Sarah had been waiting for this job interview for weeks. It was a golden opportunity at a marketing firm she admired, a chance to prove herself, to build a career she had always dreamed about. The thought of missing her flight sent a jolt of panic through her. As she approached the departure board, her eyes darted from one destination to another, searching for her flight number. Gate 23, she whispered, clenching her teeth. The gate was on the far side of the terminal, and she was already running late. She took a deep breath and pushed onward, weaving through families, businessmen, and groups of friends, all oblivious to her urgency. Just ahead, a frail figure caught her eye. An elderly woman, Mrs. Thompson, was struggling with two heavy suitcases. Her silver hair was neatly pinned up, but the effort of lifting the bags was clearly taxing. Sarah hesitated for a moment, her mind racing with conflicting thoughts. She should keep going. She should focus on her flight. But as she watched the woman struggle, guilt gnawed at her conscience. "Excuse me, ma'am," Sarah called out, her voice breaking through the noise. The woman turned, her face lighting up with surprise. "Oh dear," Mrs. Thompson exclaimed, letting out a small sigh of relief. "Would you mind helping me with these? They seem to have a mind of their own today." Sarah approached, her heart softening at the sight of the woman's warm smile. "Of course. Let me take one of those for you." She reached down, grabbing one of the suitcases. It was heavier than she anticipated, but she managed to lift it with a grunt. "Thank you so much, dear. I don't know what I would have done without your kindness," Mrs. Thompson replied, her voice trembling with gratitude. "No problem at all," Sarah said, glancing at her watch. "I'm in a bit of a hurry, but I couldn't just walk past and leave you here." "Ah, youth and urgency," Mrs. Thompson chuckled, her eyes twinkling. "I remember those days well. Where are you headed in such a rush?" "New York," Sarah replied, her voice a mixture of excitement and anxiety. "I have a job interview. It's my dream job, and I can't afford to miss my flight." "New York, you say? A bustling city full of opportunities. My son lives there, you know," Mrs. Thompson said, her voice filled with nostalgia. "Really?" Sarah asked, intrigued despite her hurry. "What does he do?" "He's quite successful," Mrs. Thompson replied, pride evident in her tone. "Works in finance. But I worry he gets too caught up in the hustle and bustle. Sometimes I think he forgets the importance of kindness and community." Sarah nodded, understanding all too well the pressures of ambition. It can be easy to lose sight of what really matters, especially in a city like that. "Yes," Mrs. Thompson sighed, glancing down at her suitcases as they walked. "But it's the little acts of kindness that create ripples in the world, isn't it? Like your decision to help an old woman with her bags when you could have rushed on by." A warmth spread through Sarah at the woman's words. "I guess I just couldn't ignore it. I know how it feels to be overwhelmed." They continued walking, the crowd swirling around them, but Sarah felt a new sense of calm washing over her. The hurried pace of the airport faded into the background as she engaged in conversation with Mrs. Thompson. "Tell me, dear, what is this job you're after?" Mrs. Thompson asked, her voice gentle yet curious. "It's at a marketing firm. Well, one of the top firms," Sarah explained, her excitement bubbling to the surface. "I've always loved advertising and the creativity behind it. This position would be a huge step for me." "That sounds wonderful. You must be very talented," Mrs. Thompson said, her smile unwavering. "But remember, it's not just about the job. It's about the people you meet and the impact you make." Sarah nodded, a thoughtful expression crossing her face. "I believe that. I hope to inspire others through my work. I want to create campaigns that resonate, that evoke emotion." "Ah, a true artist at heart," Mrs. Thompson said, her voice warm with approval. "I wish more people thought like you. The world could use a bit more compassion." They arrived at the gate, and Sarah's heart sank as she noticed the line forming for boarding. She quickly glanced at her phone again. "I really need to go," she said, a hint of regret in her voice. "I don't want to miss my flight." "Of course, dear," Mrs. Thompson replied, her expression understanding. "But before you go, I want you to promise me something." "What is it?" Sarah asked, intrigued. "Promise me you'll remember the importance of kindness, no matter how busy life gets. It's easy to forget, but those moments can change lives." Sarah felt a lump form in her throat. "I promise," she said sincerely, her eyes locking with Mrs. Thompson's. "Thank you for reminding me." Mrs. Thompson's eyes sparkled with gratitude. "Now go on. I'll be all right. And who knows? Maybe we'll meet again someday." Sarah smiled, feeling a mix of emotions as she turned to join the boarding line. "Take care, Mrs. Thompson. It was lovely meeting you." "You too, dear. Good luck with your interview." As she took her place in line, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that this brief encounter had meant something profound. She stepped onto the plane, her heart still warmed by the conversation with the elderly woman. She settled into her seat, feeling the weight of her ambitions and dreams pressing heavily upon her shoulders. Little did she know, the simple act of kindness she had shown would set off a chain of events that would change her life forever. As Sarah and Mrs. Thompson walked through the bustling airport, the constant hum of voices and the rolling of wheels on the polished floor surrounded them, but the noise seemed to fade into the background as they settled into their conversation. The elderly woman, with her silver hair pulled back into a neat bun and a twinkle in her eye, began to speak about her late husband, a man who had always encouraged her to explore the world. "You know, dear," Mrs. Thompson said, her voice soft yet firm, "my husband used to say that life is like a suitcase. You carry it with you wherever you go, but it's the memories you pack inside that truly matter." Sarah smiled, feeling the warmth in Mrs. Thompson's words. "That's a beautiful way to put it. I've been so focused on my career that sometimes I forget to really live, to collect those memories." Mrs. Thompson chuckled lightly, her laughter like the tinkling of wind chimes. "Oh, sweetheart, it's easy to get lost in the rush of life. But I've found that the more you give to others, the richer your own life becomes. My husband and I traveled to many places, but it was the people we met along the way that made those journeys unforgettable." As they approached a long corridor leading to the security checkpoint, Sarah felt captivated by Mrs. Thompson's stories. The elderly woman spoke of their travels to far-off lands, where they had danced with locals under moonlit skies and shared meals with families who had welcomed them with open arms. Each tale painted vivid images in Sarah's mind, igniting a spark of wanderlust she had long suppressed. I remember one trip to Italy, Mrs. Thompson continued, her eyes sparkling with nostalgia. We stumbled upon a little trattoria. The owner, a kind man named Giovanni, treated us like family. We spent hours talking, laughing, and sharing stories over homemade pasta. That simple meal was one of the best experiences of my life. What a lovely memory, Sarah replied, her heart swelling with admiration for Mrs. Thompson's ability to find joy in the simplest of moments. I hope to have experiences like that one day. You will, dear, Mrs. Thompson assured her, her voice imbued with a motherly warmth. Just remember to stay open to the world and the people in it. You never know when someone might change your life. As they reached the security checkpoint, Sarah's phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out and glanced at the screen, her heart sinking as she read the message. Flight 289 boarding now. Anxiety twisted in her stomach, and she looked up at Mrs. Thompson, who was struggling to place her bags on the conveyor belt. Mrs. Thompson, I really need to get going, Sarah said, a note of regret coloring her voice. My flight is boarding, and I don't want to miss it. Mrs. Thompson's gentle smile didn't falter. Oh, my dear, don't worry about me. I can manage. You should go. But Sarah hesitated, the weight of her own urgency clashing with her desire to help. I can't just leave you here alone. Let's get through this together, and then I'll make sure you get to where you need to be. Mrs. Thompson's eyes glimmered with gratitude. You're a kind soul, Sarah. Thank you. Just a few more steps, and then I promise I won't hold you back. With a quick nod, Sarah helped the elderly woman navigate the security line, ensuring her bags were properly placed and her personal items were ready for inspection. As the two stood waiting, Sarah's mind raced. She could already envision the boarding gate, the voices of passengers being called, and the clock ticking down as her dreams of acing the interview danced tantalizingly just out of reach. But as Mrs. Thompson shared more stories, tales of her children, her late husband, and the kindness of strangers, Sarah found herself drawn in. She listened intently as the elderly woman spoke of the importance of community and how small acts of kindness could ripple outwards, creating waves of compassion. I remember one Christmas, Mrs. Thompson reminisced, a soft smile curving her lips. We decided to host a dinner for those who had nowhere to go. We transformed our little home into a warm refuge, filled with laughter and love. That night, we didn't just feed people, we created a family, if only for a brief moment. It was one of the greatest gifts we could have given. Sarah's heart fluttered at the thought. That's incredible, Mrs. Thompson. I wish I could do something like that. It sounds so fulfilling. You can, my dear. It starts with the willingness to reach out. Remember, kindness doesn't have to be grand. It can be as simple as a smile or a helping hand. Those little things often mean the most. Finally, they reached the front of the line. As they passed through the security screening, Sarah's eyes darted to her phone again, and her heart raced. There was only a few minutes left until boarding. She turned back to Mrs. Thompson, who was collecting her belongings and adjusting her glasses. I really have to go now. I'm so sorry for the rush. Go, dear, Mrs. Thompson urged gently, her expression one of understanding. But promise me you'll keep my words in your heart. Follow your dreams, and don't forget the people you meet along the way. I promise, Sarah said, feeling a surge of emotion. She took a step back, ready to part ways, but Mrs. Thompson stopped her with a hand on her arm. Before you go, tell me, what are your dreams, Sarah? What do you aspire to be? Caught off guard, Sarah hesitated. She had never really shared her dreams with anyone, not even her closest friends. The question felt heavy, yet liberating. Well, she began slowly. I want to work in marketing, but more than that, I want to make an impact. I want to help brands connect with people in a meaningful way. Mrs. Thompson nodded, her eyes filled with encouragement. That's a noble ambition. Just remember, success is not solely measured by your career, but also by the impact you leave on others. Embrace your journey, and don't forget to lift others as you rise. A lump formed in Sarah's throat, the sincerity of Mrs. Thompson's words resonating deeply within her. Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. You've given me a lot to think about. Good, Mrs. Thompson replied, her smile warm and reassuring. Now go catch your flight. And remember, kindness is the greatest currency. With a final hug, Sarah reluctantly stepped back. She watched Mrs. Thompson wave her hand, a small yet powerful gesture of connection that would stay with her long after their encounter. As Sarah hurried toward her gate, she felt a mix of gratitude and inspiration igniting her spirit. The elderly woman's tales of kindness and community lingered in her mind like a beacon, guiding her through the chaos of the airport. As she approached the gate, the boarding call echoed in her ears, and she quickened her pace, feeling the pulse of her aspirations beat stronger than ever. Mrs. Thompson's words became a mantra in her heart: kindness, connection, and courage. As Sarah said her heartfelt goodbye to Mrs. Thompson, she felt an unexpected warmth spread through her chest. The elderly woman enveloped her in a tight embrace that lingered longer than Sarah had anticipated. It was a moment of connection that seemed to transcend their brief encounter in the busy airport terminal. You take care of yourself, dear, Mrs. Thompson whispered, her voice soft yet firm. Remember, kindness always finds its way back to you. I will, Mrs. Thompson. Thank you for everything, Sarah replied, her voice tinged with sincerity. She waved as she turned to hurry toward her gate, but a sense of lightness accompanied her steps. The hustle and bustle of the airport, once a source of anxiety, now felt like an arena of possibilities. She glanced at the overhead signs, her heart racing with the thought of her approaching flight. However, as she navigated through the crowd, an announcement boomed through the terminal, catching her off guard. Attention! We are looking for Sarah Mitchell to please report to the information desk. Confusion washed over her, and panic gripped her heart. Was this about her flight? Had she missed something crucial? She hesitated for a moment, glancing back toward the direction of Mrs. Thompson, but the elderly lady was already lost in the crowd. Swallowing her apprehension, Sarah hurried to the information desk, her mind racing with worst-case scenarios. When she reached the desk, she was met by a young attendant with a friendly smile, though Sarah couldn't see how this could possibly be good news. "Hi there. Are you Sarah Mitchell?" the attendant asked, her tone bright and cheerful. "Yes, that's me," Sarah responded, her voice nervous as she fidgeted with the strap of her purse. "Great. I have some exciting news for you." The attendant glanced at her computer screen, her fingers dancing across the keyboard. "Due to a special arrangement, you've been upgraded to first class for your flight." "Wait, what?" "I'm sorry. There must be some mistake," Sarah stammered, her mind struggling to process the information. "I didn't pay for that." The attendant chuckled lightly, shaking her head. "No mistake at all. It's all taken care of. Just show your boarding pass at the first-class gate. You'll be in a much more comfortable seat." Sarah felt a mix of bewilderment and excitement surge through her. "But how? Why me?" she asked, still grappling with the unexpected turn of events. The attendant smiled knowingly. "Sometimes, kindness and good deeds don't go unnoticed. Just enjoy your flight. You deserve it." With that, she handed Sarah her boarding pass, and Sarah could only nod in disbelief as she turned ahead toward the first-class area. As she walked toward the gate, her thoughts drifted back to Mrs. Thompson. Was it possible that her kind act had somehow influenced this unexpected upgrade? The thought warmed her heart, and a smile crept across her face. Maybe the universe was indeed rewarding her for stopping to help. The first-class lounge was a stark contrast to the chaos of the main terminal. The plush seating and quiet atmosphere enveloped her like a comforting blanket. She took a deep breath, allowing herself a moment to savor this unexpected luxury. As she approached the boarding area, her heart raced with anticipation. What would first class be like? Would she meet interesting people? After a short wait, the time came to board the plane. As Sarah stepped inside the aircraft, she was greeted by the flight attendants with warm smiles. She found her seat and settled in, taking a moment to appreciate the spaciousness and comfort. Her fellow passengers were dressed impeccably, and the atmosphere felt exclusive yet inviting. As the plane taxied down the runway, Sarah gazed out the window, her mind still reeling from the day's events. She thought of Mrs. Thompson and the connection they had forged in such a short time. It seemed surreal that a simple act of kindness could lead to such a wonderful turn of fortune. Just then, the seatbelt sign turned off, and the flight attendants began to serve refreshments. Sarah couldn't help but notice a well-dressed man sitting across the aisle. He was tall, with neatly combed hair and an air of confidence that suggested he was accustomed to the finer things in life. He glanced over at her, his eyes curious and somewhat amused. "First time in first class?" he asked, his voice smooth and engaging. Sarah met his gaze, feeling her cheeks flush slightly. "Is it that obvious?" she replied with a chuckle. "I didn't even know I was going to be here until a few minutes ago." He smiled warmly, seeming genuinely interested. "Well, welcome. It can be quite a different experience from economy. I'm David, by the way." "Sarah," she replied, extending her hand. As they shook hands, she felt a strange sense of ease wash over her. "So, what brings you on this flight?" David asked, leaning slightly closer, as if genuinely intrigued. "I'm heading to a job interview," Sarah admitted, her nerves creeping back in. "It's a big opportunity for me, and I'm a little anxious about it." David nodded, his expression turning serious. "I understand that feeling. I had my fair share of interviews before I landed my current position. Just remember, it's as much about them getting to know you as it is about you getting to know them." "Thanks for that. I'll try to keep it in mind," Sarah responded, her heart lifting a little. Perhaps this flight would turn out to be more encouraging than she had anticipated. As they continued their conversation, Sarah found herself opening up about her aspirations and the challenges she faced in her career. David listened intently, nodding along as she spoke. "It sounds like you have a lot of passion for what you do, and that's invaluable," he remarked, his tone sincere. "Many people don't have that drive." "Sometimes I feel like it's not enough, though," Sarah admitted, biting her lip. "There's so many talented people out there. I just hope I can stand out." "You will," he assured her confidently. "Just be yourself. Authenticity is rare, and it's what will set you apart in the long run." Their conversation flowed effortlessly, and as the flight progressed, Sarah found herself relaxing. The anxiety that had gripped her earlier seemed to dissipate in the warmth of David's encouragement. As they shared stories and laughter, she felt a connection forming, a camaraderie that made her forget her worries about the interview. But in the back of her mind, she couldn't shake off the thought of Mrs. Thompson. What had happened to her after they parted? Did she make her flight? Sarah resolved to reach out to her later, perhaps to check in and see how she was doing. As the plane soared through the clouds, Sarah felt a renewed sense of hope blooming within her. Maybe this was the beginning of something special, both in her career and in the friendships she was forming. She couldn't wait for what lay ahead, all stemming from a moment of compassion and a serendipitous encounter in the bustling airport terminal. As Sarah settled in her seat on the plane, she took a deep breath, allowing the hum of the engines to drown out some of her worries. The cabin was filled with the soft murmur of passengers settling in, the rustle of magazines, and the occasional laughter of children. She glanced around, taking in the ambience of the first-class section, plush seats, ample legroom, and attentive flight attendants ready to cater to every need. It was a far cry from the cramped economy seats she had been used to, and she couldn't help but feel a rush of gratitude for the unexpected upgrade. Her gaze landed on a well-dressed man sitting across the aisle. He was impeccably attired in a tailored navy suit, the kind that spoke of power and influence. He had a calm demeanor, his eyes scanning the cabin before settling on her. Sarah felt a slight flutter in her stomach. It was as if he was studying her. She quickly looked away, focusing instead on the view outside the window, the sprawling landscape of the airport, the planes lined up like eager horses at the starting gate, and the distant horizon where earth met sky. Suddenly, the man leaned slightly toward her, breaking the comfortable silence. "Excuse me," he began, his voice smooth and confident. "I couldn't help but notice your expression. You seem deep in thought. Is everything all right?" Sarah turned to face him, surprised by his sudden interest. "Oh, yes, I'm just reflecting on my day. It's been a bit hectic, actually," she replied, trying to sound casual despite her racing heart. He smiled warmly, and she found herself drawn in by his charisma. "I can relate. Traveling often feels like a whirlwind, doesn't it? I'm Mr. Jenkins, by the way," he added, extending a hand across the aisle. "Sarah," she said, shaking his hand. His grip was firm, and she felt an odd sense of comfort in the connection. "Nice to meet you, Mr. Jenkins." "Please, call me James," he said, his eyes sparkling with an engaging energy. "So, what brings you on this flight?" "I have a job interview," Sarah admitted, feeling a mix of excitement and anxiety. "It's for a position I've been dreaming about." "Ah, the thrill of new opportunities," he mused, leaning back in his seat as the flight attendants began their safety demonstration. "What's the position?" "I'm hoping to be a marketing coordinator at a tech company," she said, her voice gaining confidence as she spoke about her aspirations. "I've been working in retail for a few years now, but I want to move into something more challenging, something that aligns with my passion for creativity." "That sounds fantastic, Sarah. You clearly have a vision," he said, his interest genuine. "It's crucial to pursue what you love. I'm in the tech industry myself, so I might be able to offer some advice or even connect you with the right people." Sarah's heart raced at the thought. "Really? That would be incredible. I could use all the help I can get." James nodded thoughtfully. "Networking is key. I've seen many talented individuals miss out simply because they didn't have the right connections. Tell me more about what you hope to achieve in your career." As the plane took off, the roar of the engines filled the cabin, but Sarah felt a calmness wash over her as she engaged in conversation with James. "Well, I want to work on campaigns that not only sell products, but also resonate with people on a deeper level. I want to create something meaningful." "That's a noble goal," he replied, his gaze steady. "What inspires you to pursue marketing?" She hesitated for a moment, the memory of her conversation with Mrs. Thompson flashing in her mind. "I've always believed in the power of stories. My grandmother used to tell me tales about her life and experiences, and I realized how impactful a good story can be. I want to tell stories that inspire and connect people." "Beautifully said," James said, leaning forward slightly, clearly intrigued. "Storytelling is at the heart of effective marketing. It sounds like you have a solid foundation to build upon. Have you had any experiences that have prepared you for this role?" Sarah took a deep breath, recalling her time working in retail. "I've learned a lot about customer interaction and the importance of understanding what people want. I've also taken some online courses on digital marketing to enhance my skills." "That's impressive," he said, nodding in approval. "It shows your dedication. Many people would simply wait for an opportunity to come to them, but you're actively seeking out knowledge." The conversation flowed effortlessly, and Sarah found herself more at ease. She could feel the tension from earlier dissipating as they talked about their interests and aspirations. She learned that James had worked his way up in the tech industry and had a passion for mentoring young professionals. As the flight continued, they exchanged stories about their journeys. James shared anecdotes from his early days in the industry, emphasizing the importance of resilience and adaptability. "There were times when I faced rejection and setbacks, but each experience taught me something valuable. It's part of the journey," he said, his tone earnest. "I can relate to that," Sarah replied, her thoughts drifting back to her own struggles. "I've faced a lot of self-doubt, especially when applying for jobs. Sometimes it feels like I'm not good enough." James shook his head, a reassuring smile on his face. "You are more than enough, Sarah. Remember, every expert was once a beginner. Embrace the journey, and don't be afraid to take risks." His words resonated deeply with her, and she felt a surge of motivation. "Thank you, James. I really needed to hear that." As they conversed, the flight attendants began serving refreshments, and James ordered a glass of wine for himself and offered Sarah a choice. "Would you like something?" "It's on me," he said with a wink. "Just water for me, please," she replied, still processing the unexpected turn her day had taken. "Suit yourself," he said, raising his glass in a mock toast. "To new beginnings." "To new beginnings," Sarah echoed, clinking her plastic cup against his wine glass. As they settled back in a conversation, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that this chance meeting was more than just a coincidence. Perhaps Mrs. Thompson's kindness had set off a ripple effect, leading her to this moment. She found herself opening up more, sharing her hopes and fears, and James was an attentive listener, offering insights that felt both practical and profound. "Have you ever thought about what you would do if you could create your dream project?" he asked, his curiosity piqued. Sarah considered his question carefully. "I think I would want to create a campaign that raises awareness for mental health. It's something that affects so many people, but there's still a stigma around it. I want to help change that narrative." James nodded thoughtfully. "That's a powerful vision. Mental health awareness is so important, and it's great to see young people like you wanting to make a difference. If you ever decide to pursue that, I'd love to help in any way I can." Her heart swelled at his encouragement. "Thank you, James. I'll definitely keep that in mind." The flight continued, and as they talked, Sarah felt a sense of hope blossoming within her. The encounter with Mrs. Thompson had opened a door she never expected, and now, here she was, conversing with a successful businessman who believed in her potential. The world felt a little brighter, and her dreams felt a little closer. As the plane soared through the clouds, Sarah couldn't help but think about the impact of small acts of kindness. Mrs. Thompson's struggle with her luggage had led to this moment, an unexpected friendship that might just be the catalyst for her future. She silently vowed to pay it forward, to be the kind of person who helps others, just as she had helped that elderly woman. Sarah, James's voice broke through her thoughts. Yes, she replied, turning her attention back to him. I truly believe you have what it takes to succeed. Just remember to be patient with yourself and keep pushing forward. His words settled into her heart, and she smiled. Thank you, James. That means a lot to me. As the flight continued, they delved deeper into their aspirations and shared dreams, both unaware of the profound impact their conversation would have on their lives. The plane flew on, cutting through the sky, carrying with it the promise of new beginnings and the magic of unexpected connections. Over the next few days, Sarah found herself caught up in a whirlwind of opportunities. Mr. Jenkins had taken her under his wing, introducing her to influential contacts in the industry. It was as if her aspirations were suddenly within reach, tangible and real. She spent hours crafting her resume, polishing her portfolio, and preparing for meetings that now felt less daunting with Mr. Jenkins's encouragement. One afternoon, as she sat in a chic cafe near her apartment, Sarah's phone buzzed with a message from Mr. Jenkins. Asterisk. I've set up a lunch meeting for us with the marketing director at Stonebridge Media. I believe they're looking for fresh talent. Asterisk, her heart raced with excitement. This was the kind of opportunity she had only dreamt of before meeting him. Feeling a sense of urgency, Sarah replied, Asterisk, thank you. I can't wait. Asterisk, she took a moment to reflect on how far she had come in such a short time. Just a week ago, she had been a nervous wreck, unsure of her future. Now, she was on the brink of breaking into a competitive field, all thanks to a chance encounter with Mrs. Thompson and the unexpected kindness that followed. But amidst her professional growth, Sarah's thoughts occasionally drifted back to the elderly woman who had started it all. Mrs. Thompson's warm smile and her stories of resilience lingered in her mind, reminding her of the importance of kindness and connection. It was an unsettling irony that she had helped Mrs. Thompson at the airport, yet now she was the one benefiting immensely from that encounter. One evening, while reviewing her notes for the upcoming lunch meeting, Sarah received an alarming call. As she answered, a familiar voice crackled through the line. Sarah, it's Mrs. Thompson. I'm afraid I have some bad news. Mrs. Thompson, what happened? Sarah's heart plummeted. The concern in the woman's voice was palpable. I've had a little fall, dear. Nothing too serious, but the doctors want to keep me in the hospital for observation. I could use some company. I'll be there right away. Sarah exclaimed, barely taking the time to grab her coat. The warmth of her burgeoning career faded as worry for Mrs. Thompson consumed her thoughts. When Sarah arrived at the hospital, she navigated the sterile corridors with a sense of urgency. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, intensifying the clinical atmosphere. As she approached Mrs. Thompson's room, she inhaled deeply, steeling herself for whatever awaited her inside. Opening the door gently, Sarah was greeted by the sight of Mrs. Thompson propped up in a hospital bed, a frail figure surrounded by crisp white sheets. The elderly woman's silver hair was neatly combed, but her face bore the telltale signs of discomfort. Yet, when her eyes met Sarah's, a smile broke through, illuminating the room like a ray of sunshine. Sarah, my dear girl. Mrs. Thompson's voice was frail but filled with warmth. How lovely to see you. You're a sight for sore eyes. Mrs. Thompson, I was so worried when I heard. How are you feeling?" Sarah rushed to her side, taking the elderly woman's hand in hers, squeezing it gently. "Oh, just a little bump and bruise. The doctors say I'll be just fine. But I do appreciate your concern. It means the world to me." Mrs. Thompson's eyes sparkled with gratitude. As they settled into a comfortable conversation, Sarah felt a wave of relief wash over her. They shared stories, laughter, and moments of silence that spoke volumes. Sarah soon learned that despite her condition, Mrs. Thompson's spirit remained unbroken. "You know, dear, I've been thinking a lot about our conversation at the airport," Mrs. Thompson said, her tone shifting to something more reflective. "You have such ambition. It reminds me of my late husband. He always believed in following one's dreams." "Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. I feel like I'm finally on the right path, but I couldn't have done it without your encouragement," Sarah replied, her heart swelling with emotion. Mrs. Thompson chuckled softly. "You've always had it in you, my dear. Sometimes, all it takes is a little nudge from someone who believes in you." They continued to talk, sharing life lessons and experiences that bridged the gap between their generations. As Sarah listened intently, she couldn't help but feel a deeper connection forming, one that transcended mere chance encounters. But as the afternoon wore on, the conversation shifted to a more serious tone. "You know, I mentioned my son, didn't I?" Mrs. Thompson said, her voice barely above a whisper. "He's been busy with work lately. I worry about him. He's under so much pressure." Sarah felt a pang of curiosity. "What does he do, if you don't mind me asking?" "Ah, he's quite successful in his field. A businessman," Mrs. Thompson replied, her gaze drifting toward the window. "Sometimes I wonder if he's lost sight of what truly matters." "Family," Sarah suggested gently. "Yes, family and kindness. He's always been so focused on his career. I just hope he remembers that there's more to life than just success." Mrs. Thompson's eyes glistened with unshed tears. As the visit continued, Sarah promised to return the next day, feeling a sense of responsibility to this remarkable woman who had unknowingly changed her life. She left the hospital with a heavy heart, but also with a renewed sense of purpose. That night, Sarah lay in bed, thoughts racing. She couldn't shake the feeling that Mrs. Thompson's son, Mr. Jenkins, was more than just a mentor. He was a part of a family that had unknowingly intertwined with her own life. Yet she was also acutely aware of the privilege she had been afforded, a privilege that now came with a sense of duty. Days passed, and as Sarah juggled her meetings and calls with Mr. Jenkins, the weight of her newfound knowledge about Mrs. Thompson lingered in her mind. She couldn't help but wonder about the dynamics of their relationship. Did Mr. Jenkins know about his mother's hospitalization? Was he aware of the impact she had on Sarah's life? Determined to find out, Sarah resolved to bring the two together. She believed that perhaps seeing his mother's strength and character firsthand might remind Mr. Jenkins of what truly mattered. And so, with a deep breath, she reached for her phone, ready to bridge the gap between this inspiring woman and the man who had so profoundly influenced her career. As Sarah settled into the hospital room with Mrs. Thompson, the atmosphere was filled with the sterile scent of antiseptic and the soft beeping of medical equipment. She took a seat beside the elderly woman, who was wrapped in a cozy blanket, her frail hands resting on the armrests of the hospital chair. The white walls were stark, but Sarah was determined to brighten the moment. "Mrs. Thompson," Sarah began, her voice gentle, "how are you feeling today?" Mrs. Thompson looked up with a warm smile, her eyes sparkling with a hint of mischief. "Oh, You know, darling, just trying to keep my spirits up. They've got me on a strict diet of hospital food and endless paperwork. But seeing you makes it all a bit better. Sarah chuckled softly. I can't imagine hospital food is very appealing. What's for dinner tonight? Mystery meat. Mrs. Thompson laughed, a melodic sound that seemed to fill the room with warmth. Something like that. But honestly, I'm just grateful to be here, with lovely company like you. As they conversed, Sarah felt a sense of calm wash over her. She had been anxious ever since she learned about Mrs. Thompson's fall, but now, seeing her in good spirits, her worries began to melt away. Tell me, dear, Mrs. Thompson said, her tone shifting to something more serious. Have you heard from that handsome businessman you met on the flight? Mr. Jenkins? Sarah replied, her heart quickening at the thought of him. Yes, he's been incredibly helpful. He's introduced me to some amazing contacts. I can't believe how much my career has taken off in just a few days. Mrs. Thompson watched her closely, a knowing smile playing on her lips. He's quite the man, isn't he? You have no idea how he's been a guiding light for many. But, she paused, her expression turning somber. He's also carrying a heavy burden. Sarah tilted her head, curiosity piqued. What do you mean? Before Mrs. Thompson could answer, a nurse entered the room, bustling about with efficiency. Good afternoon, Mrs. Thompson. How are we feeling today? Better, thank you, dear. Just enjoying the company of this lovely young woman, Mrs. Thompson replied, gesturing toward Sarah. The nurse smiled warmly, checking Mrs. Thompson's vitals before stepping back. That's wonderful to hear. Just remember to press the button if you need anything. As the nurse exited, Sarah turned back to Mrs. Thompson. What burden do you mean? Mrs. Thompson sighed, her gaze drifting to the window where the sun was beginning to set, casting a warm glow in the room. Mr. Jenkins is my son, you know, but things have been complicated between us. He's made some choices that have put him in a difficult position. I worry about him. Sarah's eyes widened in realization. Mr. Jenkins is your son? I had no idea. Yes, dear. I've kept it under wraps to avoid any undue attention. You see, his rise in the business world has not come without its shadows. There are rumors, whispers of a scandal involving his company. I don't know how much you've heard, but it's troubling. The weight of Mrs. Thompson's words hung in the air, and Sarah felt a knot form in her stomach. She remembered the hushed tones and concerned expressions she'd seen at the office when she briefly visited Mr. Jenkins' workplace. I overheard some talk about a corporate scandal, but I didn't know it was connected to him. Mrs. Thompson's eyes were filled with worry. He's a good man at heart, but the pressures of his job have led him astray. I wish I could reach him, but I'm afraid he's too far gone. Just then, Sarah's phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out, glancing at the screen. A message from Mr. Jenkins read, "Can we talk? Important matter regarding the company." Her heart raced. "I think I need to speak with him," Sarah said, her voice barely above a whisper. "He might be in trouble." "Be careful, dear," Mrs. Thompson cautioned, her voice trembling slightly. "He's proud, and pride can blind a man to the truth. If he's made mistakes, he needs to own them, but he won't do that easily." With a firm nod, Sarah stood up, determination coursing through her veins. "I'll do my best to help him see the truth. Thank you for trusting me with this, Mrs. Thompson." As Sarah prepared to leave, she felt a mix of anxiety and resolve. She stepped into the hallway, her thoughts racing. She had to confront Mr. Jenkins. The weight of the world was pressing on her shoulders, but she couldn't ignore what she had learned. Arriving at the company headquarters, Sarah was greeted by the usual hustle and bustle of the office. She navigated through the maze of cubicles, her heart pounding as she approached Mr. Jenkins' office. Taking a deep breath, she knocked lightly on the door. "Come in," came his voice, deep and slightly strained. Sarah opened the door to find Mr. Jenkins sitting behind his sleek, modern desk, his brow furrowed in concentration. He looked up, surprise flashing across his face as he met her gaze. "Sarah, I wasn't expecting you. Is everything okay?" "Not really," she replied, stepping inside and closing the door behind her. "I think we need to talk." His expression shifted to one of concern. "What's going on?" As she recounted her conversation with Mrs. Thompson and shared the information she had overheard, she noticed the color drain from his face. When she finished, the silence in the room was palpable. "I can't believe she told you that," he said, running a hand through his hair in frustration. "I've been trying to manage this on my own, but it's spiraling out of control. I thought I could fix it without anyone knowing." "Mr. Jenkins," Sarah said firmly, "you have to take responsibility for what's happening. If there's a scandal brewing, you need to confront it head-on. Hiding won't help anyone, least of all your mother." He met her gaze, and for the first time, she saw vulnerability in his eyes. "You don't understand. If I come clean, it could ruin everything I've worked for. My reputation, my career, everything. But at what cost?" Sarah pressed. "You're risking everything, including the trust of the people who care about you. You have a chance to make things right before it's too late." He looked away, wrestling with his thoughts, and Sarah seized the moment. "You can do this. You have the support of your mother, and if you own up to it now, you may just salvage your career and help others in the process." Mr. Jenkins sighed deeply, the weight of her words sinking in. "You're right. I've been running away from this instead of facing it. I need to talk to the board before this gets out of hand." Sarah smiled gently, feeling a glimmer of hope. "And I'll be here to support you through it." He looked at her, gratitude shining in his eyes. "Thank you, Sarah. I didn't expect this when we met on that flight, but you've come to mean a lot to me." As they discussed the steps he would take, Sarah felt a sense of empowerment. In that moment, she realized that her act of kindness toward Mrs. Thompson had set off a chain reaction, leading her to this pivotal moment. The road ahead would be challenging, but she was ready to face it head-on, proving that empathy could lead to profound change. And as Sarah walked out of the office, she felt a newfound sense of purpose, a reminder that even in the darkest situations, light could emerge from the simplest acts of kindness.